We're absolutely thrilled you're joining us today.
Yeah, it's going to be a really great conversation.
Because, you've probably noticed this in your own life. We spend just an immense amount of our time in dining spaces.
Oh, totally.
Right. Whether you're standing over the kitchen island, grabbing a really quick breakfast, or maybe you're hosting this sprawling, chaotic holiday
I'm
dinner.
just sitting alone with a quiet cup of coffee.
Exactly. But have you ever stopped to actually analyze why certain rooms instantly make you feel grounded and at ease, while others just feel like, well, like a utilitarian place to eat and immediately leave?
Right, the spaces where you just want to eat your food and get out of there.
Yeah, exactly. So today we're dissecting some truly brilliant insights from a piece called The Architecture of Atmosphere, Designing the Soul of Dining. And our mission for this deep dive is to completely reframe how you look at these spaces. We're getting into how a dining room is fundamentally not about the food. I mean, it's about atmosphere, extreme craftsmanship, and this invisible choreography of materials, light, and, human presence.
That's exactly the framework we need. We're going to dissect the anatomy of the perfect dining space, starting from its foundational architectural bones and working our way all the way down to the subtle and often overlooked acoustics of the tableware.
The acoustics, yeah. Which is fascinating.
It really is, because the goal here isn't just to describe a pretty room. It's to understand the psychological mechanics behind why certain spaces possess this almost magnetic ability to invite connection.
Right.
Why do you feel comfortable opening up in one room and totally closed off in another? It happens long before a single plate is set down on the table. It's a highly intentional process.
It is. And for you listening, whether you're an aspiring interior architect or maybe somebody trying to revamp your own home, or frankly, just insanely curious about the spatial psychology of the rooms you inhabit every single day.
You're in the right place.
You really are. You're going to get some serious aha moments today. I mean, you won't be able to walk into a restaurant or a friend's dining room without seeing the hidden matrix of how it was put together.
It really is a profound shift in perspective. The architectural theory we're looking at paints this evocative picture right from the jump. Imagine stepping into a dining space, just as the early morning light begins to soften the room.
Oh, that's such a great image.
Right. The air feels calm, the textures are grounded, and every surface is quietly communicating something. A dining area is a curated experience. It's a machine designed for human connection.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because that connection starts with the very first impression, which is the architecture itself.
The foundation.
The literal bones of the room. Our research goes into some incredible detail about specific materials and the tension between them. For instance, we're looking at walls built from exposed brick.
Yes, the brick is crucial there.
Right, because brick brings an undeniable sense of permanence and historical warmth. But then it's immediately contrasted with smooth concrete surfaces to introduce a quiet, modern balance.
Exactly.
Now, I have to play devil's advocate here for a second.
Yeah.
When I hear concrete and exposed brick, my mind immediately jumps to, like, a loud, echoing, overly trendy coffee shop.
Oh, yeah. The industrial chic thing.
Yeah. So how does that translate to a warm, intimate dining space without feeling like you're eating in a commercial garage?
It's a completely valid concern, and it all comes down to how those materials are deployed and balanced.
Right.
You're right, too much concrete and you're in a parking structure.
Right.
Too much brick and you're basically inside a pizza oven.
Exactly.
So the design strategy here relies on the push and pull between the rustic, imperfect history of the brick and the sleek, austere minimalism of the concrete. The concrete acts as a visual palate cleanser. It stops the room from feeling overwhelmingly rustic or kitschy.
That makes a lot of sense.
And holding those two drastically different contrasting elements together requires serious architectural structure, which is where steel comes into play.
Right, steel framing.
Exactly. But it's not just structural steel hiding behind drywall. The steel acts as precision framing. It's an aesthetic choice that frames these incredibly generous openings where glass stretches entirely from the floor to the ceiling.
Wow.
Yeah, and alongside that expansive glass, you have these massive, tall wooden doors. This isn't just about creating a big window. It's about creating a literal vessel for daylight to pour in.
A vessel. I love that phrasing.
It allows the shifting sun to constantly change the character and mood of the room throughout the day. The steel provides the rigid boundary that lets the natural world inside.
Which brings us to the absolute centerpiece of it all. If the walls and the floor-to-ceiling windows are the vessel, the room desperately needs a center of gravity. we're talking about the dining table. But we aren't talking about a flimsy piece of flat pack furniture where you just happen to eat your takeout.
Definitely not.
No, this is the anchor of the room. It demands physical and psychological weight. The insights we pulled note that these tables are often sculpted from solid wood or carved stone, retaining the quiet marks of human craftsmanship.
Yes.
We're talking thick slabs of walnut, solid oak, or even monolithic carved marble. When you imagine a massive 3-inch thick slab of walnut, you can physically sense how that gravity grounds the entire space. It anchors you to the floor.
What's fascinating here is the proportional relationship between that commanding heavy table and the seating arranged around it.
Right, because the chairs matter too.
Oh, absolutely. You have this massive anchor, so the designer chairs brought in need to offer comfort and sculptural form, but there's a highly delicate visual hierarchy at play.
How so?
Well, the fabrics and the specific curves of these chairs have to be chosen so that the seating feels welcoming and organic, but intentionally designed not to compete with the table's presence.
They can't fight for dominance.
Precisely. If your chairs are too loud, visually speaking, or too heavy, the room feels chaotic. The table must remain the undisputed anchor. The chairs act strictly as the supporting cast.
The supporting cast.
Yes, their curves and soft fabrics are meant to complement and soften that central gravity rather than overpowering it.
I really love that concept of visual hierarchy. You don't want every single piece of furniture screaming for your attention at once. It's exhausting.
It really is.
And speaking of harmonious relationships, let's look at the walls. Because the magic of a dining space often lies entirely in the perimeter surrounding you. Texture is everything.
Texture is huge.
We already mentioned the layered character of exposed brick, with each individual brick carrying subtle variations of tone. But the design theory also introduces limestone blocks, travertine slabs, and delicate marble veining that's specifically positioned to catch the daylight. But again, I'm picturing all this brick, limestone, travertine, marble, wood. Doesn't that risk looking like a chaotic masonry yard? How do you avoid visual overload?
It's a great point, because layering that many materials sounds like a recipe for a McMansion disaster if handled poorly.
Yeah.
The underlying architectural philosophy here is about creating profound depth without ever resorting to clutter. You avoid the masonry yard feel through careful spatial distribution.
Okay.
For example, using slatted wooden panels on one wall adds a rhythmic organic warmth, while a small section of mosaic stone accents might provide a brief moment of intricacy. By layering these diverse textures, the rough brick against the smooth travertine, the rhythmic wood against the intricate mosaic, you create an environment that feels incredibly rich.
But the richness is baked into the room itself.
Exactly. The texture is the decoration. Because the visual interest comes entirely from the foundational materials rather than an overabundance of hung art, shelves, or knickknacks, the room never feels visually crowded.
It stays calm.
It retains a profound sense of calm because your brain naturally processes those organic textures as belonging together.
It's so intuitively smart once you realize what's happening. And what I found incredibly counterintuitive was the actual science of how light interacts with these specific textures.
Oh, the light reflectant.
Yes. We're getting into light reflectance values here. Sunlight reflects softly on polished stone, right? It gives off this gentle, active gleam.
Right.
But then right next to it, the designers utilize matte plaster. And matte plaster doesn't reflect, it fundamentally absorbs the light.
It drinks it in.
Exactly. That absorption creates these gentle, diffused, shifting shadows. So just by pairing a highly polished stone next to a matte textured plaster, the wall itself becomes a dynamic, living canvas depending on the exact angle of the sun.
You're touching on something vital there. The light is acting as an active physical participant in the room's design. It's a material in its own right, not just a utility used to illuminate the other materials.
I love thinking of light as a material.
It changes everything.
Mm-hmm.
And that sets up a beautiful transition into how the space physically evolves over the course of a day.
Yes, here's where it gets really interesting. The progression of time in this room is designed to be almost cinematic.
Cinematic is the perfect word.
We're so used to static environments. You flip a switch and the room looks the exact same at 8 a.m. as it does at 8 p.m. But here, it progresses. In the morning, the light is low and horizontal, moving gently across the grain of that heavy walnut dining table. Then, as we move into noon and the sun is overhead, the intense light plunges down and brightens all those intricate stone textures and limestone blocks we just talked about.
The whole room wakes up.
It does. And finally, as evening rolls around, the The golden hour light settles softly against the wood grain and the linen fabric of the chairs, filtering organically through the garden greenery outside. It's a literal choreographed progression of light and shadow.
That cinematic progression completely relies on the powerful role of the natural world. Modern design intentionally seeks to blur or outright erase the boundaries between the inside and the outside.
Erase them completely.
Yes. When those massive, sliding wooden doors we mentioned earlier are opened up, the rigid boundary between the interior dining space and the exterior garden becomes almost entirely invisible.
That's incredible.
You're physically allowing fresh air to move through the room, which fundamentally alters the temperature, the scent, and the atmosphere. You're no longer just sitting in a walled box. You're actively participating in the landscape.
And what's brilliant is that the designers are mirroring that landscape on the inside, too. It's not just about sliding a door open and hoping for the best.
Right.
The natural materials we've been cataloging, the travertine stone, the oak wood, the clay of the plaster, the linen of the chairs, they directly echo the organic textures of the outside environment.
Materials are a bridge.
Exactly. Plus, the careful placement of indoor plants near the dining table is meant to visually bridge the gap to the outside greenery. It makes all the interior materials feel like they naturally belong to the exact same ecosystem as the garden. It's a totally seamless extension.